Hi guys, it's Angie with Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab. Today I'm going to try out some more of Dalula Company's new dye colors. I'm doing Watermelon Crush, Still Waters, and Rusted Blue. Let's start out by trying Watermelon Crush and Still Waters. I'm going to try these colors on some flour sack towels. They're 28 inches square and they're 100% cotton. I've started by making a mark in the center of the towel with a washable marker. And I'm going to use a pair of locking tweezers, lock them onto the towel, and then place a microwavable splatter guard over the top of the tweezers. My microwavable splatter guard has a hole in the center. And when I place it over the top of the tweezers, I'm placing the flat side of the splatter guard down toward the fabric. That way, whenever I begin to spiral the fabric, the folds will all be about the same height. So as I begin to turn my locking tweezers, it's going to spiral the fabric, and I'm going to use my other hand to straighten out the folds and form additional folds. If this was a t-shirt that I was doing, I would face the front side of the t-shirt toward my table. Whenever you do a spiral, there's always one side of the spiral that the folds are nicer, more uniform, and just look better. And usually that's the side that's facing the table. So because this is a towel, it doesn't really matter, but normally on a t-shirt, I like for the folds on the front of the shirt to be the prettier folds. Once I have the towel spiraled, I'm going to use some cable straps to hold the folds in place. I've used these before and I purchased them at Amazon. They're basically just a large piece of Velcro. I'll leave a link down below this video in the description for the cable straps that I have. I'm going to do a colander spiral on this towel, so you wouldn't actually need to even use cable straps or any kind of ties. You could just slide it off on top of the colander if you wanted to. I just want to get a little bit of extra practice using these cable straps, so I'm going to just mess around with them on this towel. For my setup, I'm going to use two colanders, which are exactly the same, that I purchased from the Dollar Tree dollar store. I'm also going to use a plastic container or tote. I'm going to place one of the colanders right on top of the spiral, and then I'm going to slide it off to the edge of the table, and as I slide it onto the colander, I'm going to flip the colander over. That way, the pretty side of the spiral, which is the side that was facing the table, is the side that I'm going to apply the dye to. I also used a washable marker and divided the spiral into two sections. Then I'm going to take the cable strap from around the edge of the spiral and allow the spiral to open up just a little bit. It's still pretty damp, so it's not opening up a whole lot, but that's okay. I mean, I do want to allow the dye to flow a little bit, but I don't suspect it's probably going to flow a whole lot. I normally wring my items out in my Panda spin dryer, so they're just barely damp when I tie them. But because it's been so cold, I wrung these out by hand inside of my dye space, so they're quite a bit more damp than normal, which is great as far as holding the folds in place. I mean, this spiral is nice and tight, but if you're wanting it to open up a little bit and the dye to be able to flow, it's not quite as great. That's okay. I'm still going to be a pretty spiral. I'm going to start off by applying Watermelon Crush to one half of the spiral. Then I'm going to add Still Waters to the other half of the spiral and top all the dye with a little additional sprinkle of dry soda ash. Then for the ice, I'm going to take that second colander and I'm going to place ice down inside of the second colander. Using two of the exact same colanders makes for a really stable setup. I haven't had any issues with my shirts or towels or items falling off of the colander or the ice falling off of the colander when I use this setup. So after I get the ice inside of the colander, I'm going to place the colander directly on top of the other colander and on top of the dye. Once the ice melted inside of the colander, I just left the towel alone and allowed it to process. If this were a shirt, I might go ahead and add a second layer of ice inside of the colander, but this towel's pretty thin and the fabric was well saturated. There was a little bit of undissolved dye left sitting on top, but I just left that alone. I allowed it to process for about 48 hours before I began rinsing it. Okay, so let's move on and do our next towel, which is Rusted Blue, and then I've paired it with October Nights, which is another Dalula Company color. When I was looking for another color to use with Rusted Blue, I pulled out my color swatches and I thought that October Nights would look cool with it. So that's what we're going to try. I'm going to start by folding my towel in half, and then I'm going to fold it in half again, basically folding the towel into quarters. I'm going to experiment with a rolled design on this towel, and it's one that I haven't ever done before. So I'm going to fold the towel in half just to see where the center of this one side is. Place a mark there with a washable marker, and then using an old piece of sinew and a washable marker, I'm going to draw an arc. And I kept having issues getting an arc that I was happy with, so I kept drawing a lot of lines on the side of the towel. So just kind of ignore those. I finally ended up with one that I liked, and that's the line that I used. I'm going to start at one end of that line that I drew, and I'm going to tightly roll on that line. And as I'm rolling that line, I'm going to use my other hand to force the rest of the towel to go ahead and roll as well. Once I get the towel rolled, I'm going to fold it in half. And normally I fold it right on that line, but because that line is so close to the end, it is actually folded a little bit below the line that I rolled. Then I'm going to hold everything in place with some rubber bands. Since the towel was pretty damp, I placed it aside for about a day or two and let it dry out just a little bit. It is still damp, but it's not wringing wet. So for my setup, I'm going to take and place this rolled towel down inside of a pencil container. This is a container that you're supposed to place pencils in and put it in your desk. I normally make large ice cubes with these, which I use for incline dies. I purchased this at the Dollar Tree. I'm ultimately going to incline this towel, and the part that I rolled is the part that I want to be at the top of the incline. And that's the area where I'm going to add the rusted blue. This container does not have holes in it, so part of this towel is going to process down in the muck, and muck is defined as the melting ice that's mixed with the dye. So the bottom portion is where I'm going to add the October Nights, which is a darker color. That's the part that's going to be mainly down inside of the muck. I'm going to apply rusted blue to half of the towel, and the other half I'm going to apply the October Nights. Then over the top, I'm going to add a little bit of additional dry soda ash, and then add quite a bit of ice to this container. To incline the towel, I'm going to take a plastic wash container or plastic wash pan, which I purchased from the Dollar Tree, and inside of that I'm going to place a metal basket. Then I'm going to put this pencil container down inside of the plastic wash pan and put one end, the part that I want to be at the top of the incline, on top of the metal basket. That's going to incline this towel. After the ice melted, I came back and checked the towel, and it was sitting in quite a bit of muck. So I went ahead and just poured the muck out into the wash pan, but I noticed right at the very top where I folded the towel over, it was a little bit light in that area. So I went ahead and added a little bit more dye, some more soda ash, and a little bit of ice just in that small area. Then I allowed the ice to melt again, and after the ice had melted, I left the towel for about 48 hours before I began rinsing it. To rinse the towels, I rinse them both the same way. I took them to my utility sink, and I began rinsing them in cold water to rinse out the soda ash. I went ahead and warmed the water up to hot and continued rinsing in hot water to rinse out the excess dye that didn't bond with the fabric. I didn't have to untie the colander spiral, but I did have to go ahead and untie the roll towel at this point. Instead of continuing to rinse for a long time, I ran some really hot water in my utility sink, added a little bit of blue Dawn dish soap to the water, placed the towel inside, and allowed it to soak. When the water cooled off, I changed it out, and I continued that soaking process until my water was remaining almost clear. Then I went ahead and put both of the towels into my washing machine along with some Dharma's Professional Textile Detergent, and I washed them using a hot water cycle. Okay, so both of the towels have been washed, dried, and ironed, and let's see what these new colors look like. Okay, so this is the first one using Watermelon Crush and Still Waters. And what do you guys think? Because I think it's really pretty. I really like these two colors, and I really like these two colors together. So I ended up with more of a teal color from the Still Waters than I did on my color swatch. My color swatch is more of a blue, but this is more of a teal. But I think they're both really pretty. I mean, both the color swatch and the way the color reacted on this spiral. I also really like the Watermelon Crush. Let me read you what Dalula Company's website says about both of these colors. I'll start with the Watermelon Crush. Watermelon Crush is an exciting color that offers a delightful mix. It features a spectrum of vibrant reds, lovely pinks, soft greens, refreshing blues, hints of purples, subtle grayish shades, and touches of yellow. This dye is perfect for adding a playful touch to ice dye projects. Now let's read about Still Waters. Still Waters features a soothing and tranquil color scheme. The palette includes vibrant shades of blue and turquoise, soft greenish gray, deep greenish blue, and subtle touches of yellow. While it isn't considered a heavy splitter, this harmonious combination creates a peaceful atmosphere for your project. Additionally, I believe it would beautifully complement any colors you choose to pair it with. So I think this is a great example of how different projects bring out different color splits. I ended up with some blue on my color swatch that I made for Watermelon Crush, and I didn't really get the blue per se on the spiral. There could have been some of the blue that I got that came out of the Watermelon Crush, but because I paired it with a blue color, I can't really tell. The other thing is I think I ended up with more of the greenish blue on my spiral than I ended up with on my color swatch. So these dyes that are intended specifically for ice dyeing can look very different depending upon what project you use them on and the technique that you use. So in general, I tend to get more color splits when I apply the dye over the top of the ice. And on this particular project, I applied the dye under the ice. And then because the dye didn't have as much space to move down the fabric, like with a long incline twist or something like that, I didn't get quite as many color splits either in this particular project. I did open up the spiral just a little bit to try to get a little bit of dye flow down at the edges, but I didn't open it up a whole lot. So I do have a little bit of flow right at the edges of this towel, but not a ton. As I'm looking at it though, where I opened it up at the edges of the Watermelon Crush, I am getting some of that turquoisey blue color that's coming out of the Watermelon Crush right in that area. However, I do think that this color or these colors are really cool. And I really like the fact that as that still water spirals into the center, I have some green, kind of greenish yellow coming out of the still waters right at the center of the spiral. It isn't hugely prominent throughout the rest of the spiral, but it really starts to show up in the center, which I think is cool. It draws a little extra attention right there. And it almost looks like the rind on the watermelon because it's paired right up next to that watermelon color. I think that's a cool effect. Okay, so let's look at the Rusted Blue and the October Nights. And I really like this rusted blue color. That is the blue and the orangey type shades. The October Nights is where you're seeing the brown and the dark purple. And I do think that they flow really well together. I think this design is a little bit funky. It almost looks like a mirror design. Like I said, I've done several of these rolled shirts, but I've never done the rolling on an arc on the hem before. So that's kind of new for me. And I don't know really how I feel about it. I don't know, it was just something fun to do to test out this color. Okay, so let me read you what the Dalula website says about rusted blue. Rusted blue truly lives up to its name, featuring a weathered brownish orange, earthy purples, deep blues, pops of pink, subtle peach, bold rustic yellows, and occasional gray tones, along with a vibrant strike of light blue. This color offers a rich, surprising palette of rustic charm. Well, I think that's a perfect description for this color. I ended up with a whole lot of the blue tones, some purples, oranges, reddish tones. Of course, I have a lot of brown, but part of that may be coming out of the October Nights. I just think it's really pretty. I could see where this would be very interesting on a shirt. There are a lot of colors that I wouldn't expect to be together in this color, and that's what I think makes it so interesting and unique. So I think it's a really cool color. And of course, I love October Nights. October Nights is just a really pretty, dark kind of mysterious type color, I think. So overall, I really like the 3 new colors that I tried today. The more I look at that rolled towel, the more I find very interesting to look at it. I don't know, I see something new each time I focus on it. So even though I wasn't sure how I felt about it at first, it's really growing on me. I really like it now. But what do you guys think? Do you like these towels? Do you like these new dye colors? Is there one that you prefer over the other one? If you're not familiar with Dalula Company, it's a small dye company and it's owned by Amanda, who pretty much mixes dyes specifically for ice dyeing. I guess you could use them for liquid dyeing because they're just fiber reactive dyes. However, they're intended for ice dyeing with all the cool color splits in mind. So she has quite a few different colors out on her website. However, because she is a small business and she mixes all of the dyes by herself, between the time that you order and the time that she ships the dye, it can sometimes be up to 3 weeks. So be a little bit patient. I personally think it's worth it to get the dye colors because I think the dyes that are formulated specifically for ice dyeing are really cool. And if you're curious about some of the colors, maybe want a little bit of inspiration, there's also a Facebook group out on Facebook called Dalula Dyes and Company. And people will post various projects where they use some of the Dalula Company dyes. I've also made videos for almost all of the dyes. There are a few new dyes that I'm still working on the videos for, but you can look back through my videos and find videos showing almost all of her dye colors. I also have a link down below this video to her website where you can go out there and look at the swatches that she has and read the descriptions for each color. Also, if you've got a favorite Dalula Company color, drop it down below. I'd like to know what it is. If there's a specific color combination that you really love, let me know that too, because I'm always looking for some new inspiration for colors to put together. And if you've enjoyed the video, I sure would appreciate it if you would like it and if you'd subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you'll hit the bell, you'll receive a notification whenever I upload a new video. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.